you mentioned trying to find the small moments. Do you have any tips on how I can help identify what those are? Like, I feel like I'm working on doing that and I'm struggling. Are there ways to be like, oh, there's one right there?
One of the things I've started to do recently, probably in the last 6 months, and I have found it to be kind of dorky, but kind of awesome, is on Sundays, I try to take a couple hours to just write down on a piece of paper what I learned in the previous week. And looking at it from the perspective of, okay, what did I learn? And that can be the good, the bad. It's typically the bad. As you know, every overachiever in this room, and we wouldn't be here today if we weren't overachievers. Like, the slackers are at home right now. They are, you're sitting there and you're constantly reacting to things, and you're, just being able to proactively think on a Sunday afternoon about what I learned, and then write up a list for myself of what I want as my goals for the coming week. I have found it to be really effective. And it sounds so stupid and small, but that hour, those 2 hours, I just feel like it's a reset button at the end of every week going into a new week. And I really think, especially with entrepreneurship, that ability to fail quickly and in small ways and start the next day with a clean slate, this stuff is so hard that I feel like the more that we carry our failures on our back without actually writing them down and figuring out how to process them and go into the new week with a clean slate, it's like you're trying to climb Mount Everest with, like, not just your supplies, but 50 pounds of rocks on your back. And it's rocks you don't need to be carrying along with you. But I don't know if anyone else in the room feels this way, but I sort of feel like sometimes that if I don't constantly remind myself of my shortcomings or things I've messed up, that somehow I'll forget them, or somehow, like, I'm not being as effective as I can be, and it's exhausting. Like, if you're carrying around all of your failures on your back, it's really tiring. And that's where I'm finding this weekly check-in with myself, whatever you want to call it, which, by the way, I did read about in a book. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. And I've started to do it, and it works really nicely.
So let's take that a step further. So you've got this list of things that you learned the week before, the lessons, maybe the mistakes that you made, etc. How do you then prioritize looking into the next week which ones you're going to tackle? We can't change ourselves all at once. There are some things that are probably recurring themes. How do you go about prioritizing that, and what are the steps you take? They're all really small things, and that's the other thing. It's like, it makes it very manageable to look at it the prior week going into the next one. And it's typically the one I'm the most excited about. The one that I think is like a true insight of, wow, if I tried this differently, or if this works in a new way, that would be really cool. So it's kind of the thing that actually gets me the most excited, that I tend to prioritize the highest. I can't imagine this shy room. Yes?
Gina, what did you learn from Ning?
What didn't I learn from Ning? There's really no way you can have, an intense experience of running a company through hypergrowth without learning a ton of lessons. Lessons on the product side, lessons on the team side, things that you do right, things that you do wrong. One of the things that...
What about on the personal side?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's structural, there's team dynamics, and then there's certainly you as an individual. One of the things that again, I wish there was sort of a nugget here or a nugget there, or that you can summarize, 5.5, 6 years of your life in like one sentence, and I can't do that. If anybody else can do that, I would love to hear how you're doing it, because that's never really worked for me. But one of the things that I found the most humbling is that all the things, and Ning was a really important example of this. Many moments within Ning were a really important example of this. And then certainly, with Mightybell and even before Ning, which is all of my genius ideas, like all the things at the time where I was like, I'm a genius. This is the best idea ever. Were the shittiest ideas ever. And the things, that were just sort of the throwaway experiments where it's like, okay, yeah, all right, let's try this. Or, oh fuck, we really actually have got to fix this because there's some spammers in Russia that are like totally in our kitchen right now. Or just things that you do that you kind of do because you just do them. Turn out to be like the best ideas ever.
And let's talk a little bit about you as an entrepreneur and some of the major lessons that you've carried yourself along the way and how they've changed the way you do.
Can I actually answer? Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just remembered one other thing I wanted to say. My major lesson for Ning, and the reason I'm continuing to work on intimate communities that are built around interests and passions and goals with Mightybell, is because I have never seen a more powerful driver of change, of real connection, and I have met some of the most amazing people online, and I just fundamentally enjoy it. And I did not know that before Ning. And instead, what I know now to be true is that as we look out over the next 2, 3, 5 years, the things that we're all working on, especially to the extent that they drive small groups and they drive intimate communities that have a passion for something, there is just true magic in that. And I know that that's not, oh, I totally fucked 5 things up, and I fucked a ton of stuff up. But I think it's also important to recognize the moments of like, what are the true lessons? Like, what are the really important lessons? And for me, that the power of intimate communities to change people's lives has been the most profound lesson I have learned in the last decade.
Which dovetails with the question before. So how has that changed you and the way you approach doing business?
I think the biggest thing is to invest in the relationships of people that I can speak honestly with and who can speak honestly with me. I find that the places that I am the most comfortable investing my time and energy are in one-on-one conversations with people and with small group conversations with people. I don't spend a lot of time at conferences. I think this is a great conference. No offense to this conference. But I'm not interested in going to conferences where everybody is like, oh, hey, how are you? Oh my God, I'm so busy. Oh my God, I'm drinking out of the fire hose of success. I mean, it's just everything. It's just like, I don't even know what to do. It's so awesome. And we've all had those conversations. And it's just like, oh, this is boring. What I'm much more interested in is sitting down with a friend, an entrepreneur, an executive, people I care about, and really rolling up our sleeves and getting into an issue and figuring out how to solve it. I really love small groups of people where we're sharing different perspectives and getting to even better answers as a result of, hey, will you guys just take a look at this email? Or, God, like this person who I'm working with is really challenging me in these different ways. Always said with that sort of level of, calm, collection, perspective.
Clearly people other than me who you talk to.
Right, exactly. But it's truly, I just don't think you can do new things without a small group of people that you can be real with.
We were talking earlier about this idea of the general management and skills around general management being kind of fundamentally broken. Incomplete. How are you spending your time looking at helping address that?
Yeah, so I'll admit something to you guys, which is that I have an MBA. I'm not proud of this fact. I actually am a total self-hating MBA, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying that, but I spent 2 years of my life and a significant amount of money, and I've been in the working world for a while. And I think that the thing that's so interesting increasingly is that as more and more women enter the workforce, graduate from college, stay in the workforce, are on our teams, that it's about creating the conditions for creative debate, constructive conversations, solving problems together, that all the skills that we've learned around leadership and management, communication, and even career navigation, a lot of it is built for a world where there are no chicks in it. And when you start to actually look at the research, that goes back 50, 60 years in social science about gender intelligence and gender dynamics, probably one of the most classic ones is the competence likability gap, that as men are more competent, they're perceived as more likable, and as women are more competent, they're perceived as less likable. And there are a number of these different kinds of dynamics that are at play when you bring women and men together in teams. And I have an emerging belief that winning teams going forward are going to actually pay more attention to gender intelligence and creating the conditions for both men and women to be successful on a team. And I think that those companies and those organizations and those products are going to win. So there's that.